This is the all-new 2023 Range Rover P530 SE with a long wheelbase. Long wheelbase, of course, means more rear legroom, and this one is also a 7-seater. With the wheelbase being almost 3.2 meters long, rear seat accommodation is pretty good actually. The middle row is stellar, and the third row, it's quite okay-ish. It's not as good as like the big American trucks, but it's totally usable. Actually, a really amazing thing is that the third row also gets heated seats and USB ports and AC ventilation. The middle row gets adjustable seats, lots of amenities like USB ports and charging stuff. They have privacy curtains, heated and ventilated seats, and of course the seats are adjustable. You can push them back and forth or recline them. The trunk is also huge and has that trademark 2 split fold opening, just like the BMW X5. The lower part of the trunk can also become a bench for you to tailgate and shoot some ducks in British fashion, or sell some drugs in alternative fashion. You can get one of these with a few different engine options. There are two really interesting ones, the P440E, which is a plug-in hybrid, and it can do between 70 and 90 kilometers on electricity, and the P530, like this one, because under the hood, it has a BMW-sourced 4.4-liter twin-turbo V8. It's the N63 motor with 523 horsepower and 553 pound-feet of torque, and it's mated to an 8-speed automatic ZF-sourced transmission with a 2-speed transfer case, so it has a 4-low mode. Pedal to the metal, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour or 0 to 62 miles per hour is supposed to come in 4.8 seconds. We did 5.4. Nevertheless, it's a very impressive number because this rig weighs 2.7 tons. Needless to say, performance is very good in this Range Rover. This new engine has made it more angry. It's like much more powerful. It feels stronger than the old supercharged 5.0. So this one has, I think, kind of transformed the Range Rover in, the way it responds. Not outright in speed, I don't think, but it also sounds almost as good as the old supercharged, because that one sounded incredible. Fuel economy is acceptable. If you drive sensibly, you can see a combined average around 14 liters per 100 kilometers. But if you step on it once or twice, well, the 16.5 liter per 100 kilometer mark comes back very quickly. It rides on air suspension, and there are 3 heights available: axis height for getting in and out, or for creeping under low ceiling environments like parking lots. There's normal height for everyday driving, and off-road 1 and 2 actually, so 4 modes in total. Ground clearance in normal mode is 219 millimeters. That increases to 294 millimeters when you set it to the full off-road mode. And the angles are approach 34.7, departure 29, and ramp 25.2. Weighting is rated at 900 millimeters, which is about 3 feet, and that's without a snorkel. Also, thanks to 4-wheel steering, the turning radius is only 11.4 meters. Ride comfort is absolutely amazing. It is excellent. The suspension deals with potholes the same way that Mafia deals with snitches. It's just vanished. Comfort levels are further increased by the headrests. No, not because they're nice and soft, because they are, but that's not the reason. The reason is they have speakers inside that do active noise canceling, just like your AirPods. That's fantastic. Speaking of sound, this Meridian sound system is pretty damn good and very, very loud. Now, look at all these driving modes, because this terrain response thing is insane. And the Range Rover is the only vehicle I can think of which I like driving in the snow without winter tires. Now, off-road capability is, we don't need to discuss it. We all know what Range Rovers can do off-road. I have 150,000 reasons not to want to try any of the off-roading, because let me tell you about the prices. Prices in Canada start at $150,000 for this long wheelbase P530, and the one we're testing here today, as optioned, is $164,000. So as you can understand, taking this off-road would be as stressful as telling my wife off and expect to walk away intact. Now, the exterior looks fantastic. Very few vehicles in the world have the curb appeal a Range Rover has, and this redesign just makes this phenomenon a little bit more intense. The front is super sexy, but still very recognizable as a Range Rover. The side still has that trademark downwards thing on the door. The belt line is nice and high. And the rear end is where this redesign is in full effect, as the rear taillights are now blacked out, and you can only see them once they're lit. It's almost as if Land Rover saw what all the owners are doing with the taillights and then said, screw it, we'll just do it for you. On to the interior design, which is also very Range Rover-y. Everything feels very familiar here for whoever has seen one of these before. The materials used are beyond criticism. Fit and finish is fantastic. Everywhere there's squishy, nice, soft materials. You get a brand new all-digital instrument cluster that's quite customizable and looks very fancy. You also have a nice, bright heads-up display. And in the center, there's a large screen with the updated infotainment that works very well. It supports wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and it has a lot of screens to play with. Ergonomically, everything works quite well. I can reach everything here. Everything is pretty self-explanatory, no problem. The seat controls, however, here on the door are only the basic ones for like the basic moves. Everything else, you have to press this button over here and then go under seats and then adjustments, and then you can adjust the headrest, the bolsters, the lumbar, and the cushion. The climate controls are easy to understand and use. The front seats are of course heated and ventilated, just like the rear ones. You also get a heated steering wheel. You also have heated front and rear windows, the windscreens. So I have to say, it's been pretty bad weather lately, and in the cold and snow and like minus 10 degrees Celsius, the Range Rover has been a very good bad weather vehicle in every sense. Other cool features include the rear view mirror and the fact that you can have the surround view cameras on while moving. I guess they do that for when you're off-roading, but you can also do it on the street at very high speeds, which is probably not recommended. The interior ambient lighting isn't that fancy. It is here, and you can also change colors and stuff. It is a bit more subtle compared to, let's say, Mercedes. But what's really impressive is the exterior lights, because when you're reversing into like a parking spot, the floodlights from the mirrors turn ultra bright and they light up the universe around you so you can see everything where you're going. And once you're done parking and you lock the car, the floodlight turns into the Land Rover logo. Handling is quite good. However, you do have to get used to two things. A, it's a very heavy car and there's lots of body roll. The suspension does whatever it can to, to keep stuff level, but it does lean a lot. That's not the biggest problem. The biggest problem is this thing gives you a fake sense of speed. Like, it hides kilometers per hour very well. So sometimes I've been surprised and I found myself like standing on the brakes. I'm like, holy shit, I'm going too fast. It's because it's so smooth and so good that, you might be going 80 and you think you're going 50. So sometimes, it might surprise you with the speed you're carrying even around town. So that's the one thing. You have to get used to the fact that you're going faster than you think you are. So you have to keep an eye out on the speedo. But when you decide to take it out of auto and put it in dynamic, which the car lowers itself a little bit, like if you decide to turn at speed, honestly, this thing, the grip is crazy. And once you, let's say, exceed the limits, which I don't see anybody doing other than us testing it right now, it really just kicks in the stability control, which starts braking. You can feel everything working, and then away you go. Like, it will delay the ability to go back on the gas really soon, but honestly, it's so safe, it's so well sorted out, nothing here to say. Like, see, full gas doesn't let me until I'm straight. So it's very safe, doesn't let you play around, because if you do play around with such a rig, shit will happen. But you know what? It's very capable and very, very car-like. Like, it doesn't feel like you're driving a school bus. Like an Escalade, for example, feels like a school bus. This one feels like a smaller SUV than what it really is. It still feels like an SUV, but not one that's this big. I actually feel really sorry for the tires when turning hard. They're holding all that weight without even making any noise. Kudos to them. The steering feels really nice. The wheel is actually very aesthetically pleasing, and it also feels pretty good, to be honest. The brake pedal also feels okay, but again, the braking system might feel underpowered, but it's not that it doesn't bite, it's because you're going faster than you thought. Same problem as before. The brakes do work very well though. What does not work very well is the start-stop system. It's not very well calibrated. Like, sometimes in town, like, you'll stop, it will shut off the engine, and then when you try to go again, it's not going to be that smooth to engage, especially if it's like a quick on-off. It could use a little bit better calibration. Not a major issue, but sometimes like it surprised me with some jerky movements, but it is what it is. The Range Rover will always be the Range Rover, no matter how good the competition gets. The Range Rover will always have its audience. Very few people will actually cross-shop a Range Rover. Usually if you want a Range Rover, there's nothing else that can substitute that need. It is expensive. It's also really expensive to maintain. But this is not a car you're going to buy with monthly payments, I don't think. Maybe lease, for sure. Yes, there might be other things out there, like a BMW X7, an Audi Q8 or Q7, like, you name it, the Cadillac Escalades, okay, fine. But those might be better in certain areas, but none of them can do in whole what a Range Rover can do, and especially, they can't say what a Range Rover can say wherever you go. So, for that reason, overall score for this brand new Range Rover is a straight 10 out of 10. Personally, I would rather get the plug-in hybrid instead because it's nice to have that option. Truthfully, in a Range Rover, the drivetrain doesn't really matter that much. It doesn't need to be this powerful. It's more like the overall experience that counts. So, going completely silently, for example, would be something that I would appreciate in a Range Rover. So, if I didn't forget anything, I think that's it with the 2023 Range Rover. Again, it's the long wheelbase SE P530. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please share it with your friends. So subscribe. Until next time, be well. Bye-bye.
Perfect. Perfect.